Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox back for another episode, and I'm absolutely thrilled today to have with me Coni Meyers. Connie and I met through the C Suite Executive Council, and I asked her if she would come on the pod and talk to us a little bit, which she graciously agreed to do. Connie, first of all, thank you so much for taking the time to visit with us today.
I am very honored to be on your podcast, Tom. Thank you so much for having me.
Connie, could you briefly detail your professional background and your background in crisis preparedness and sustainability expertise?
I used to say I was like a cat with nine lives, nine different careers. But in reality, all the training that I've been doing throughout my 50 plus years has been training for what I'm doing today with the foundation and the crisis preparedness. I was actually a FEMA inspector and trainer for 7 years. So I saw firsthand what happens when people have experienced a disaster and what they need to do to be better prepared and in order to reduce the number of disasters, how to be more sustainable. So it's really a passion of mine.
You have written a book, which I believe is entitled When the Unthinkable Happens, Be Prepared, Be Ready. Can you talk to us a little bit about your book and the organization, Be Prepared, Be Ready?
When the Unthinkable Happens is actually in its third edition. It's actually a reference guide on what to do to create those plans and to be prepared at home as well as your business. Most people don't realize they think they need to have one emergency kit. In reality, every single member of the household needs to have an emergency kit. There needs to be a kit for the pet. There needs to be a kit at your office for yourself. There's actually however many members of your household, all of them need to have their own individual kits. So my goal with bepreparedbeready.org is to educate 30 million people on how to be better prepared and more sustainable. And I'm doing that but with kids. We all know kids are the best salespeople on the planet. And also, kids have the highest risk for trauma when it comes to disasters. And 76% of parents are worried about their kids' fears, anxieties, depression, and suicide. 75% of kids are worried about their futures. Where's the planet going to be? Are they going to be able to get a job? Are they going to get shot? Are they going to be bullied? Are they going to have social media? And the mental health people agree that one of the best ways to overcome that is through empowering them. So that's what we're doing. Our Kids for Kids initiative is having kids get involved, and then they are going to be the spokespersons to educate the adults, because we all care about protecting our kids, and we will all listen to them when they say they have fears.
I mean, I live in a rural county of rural West Texas, and our county is about 38% 65 and older. And I don't know if it's because of that, but the Red Cross is very active here in terms of getting out and educating the public. Is what you do adjacent to what the Red Cross does because in large part they're coming in after a disaster, or do you work with organizations like that?
I'm working with organizations like that. For example, here in Las Vegas, we are launching our very first Kids for Kids initiative this month. And we're working with Rotary, we're working with the schools. I started with kids because our next kit is for seniors, by the way. And so one that we're coming out with for pets. But I started with kids because that's something we all agree on. And it's something that we want to protect. And they are at the highest risk right now. So I started with kids, but it's certainly not just for kids. But the Red Cross does an amazing job. They beat FEMA into a disaster. They are there firsthand, them and the Salvation Army. And I always was admired the work that they do. It's so critically important. And they do a lot of education. I looked around and I saw there was a hole. FEMA has all kinds of education, the Red Cross has all kinds of education, but so many times it has to be from the community up rather than from a big organization down, because each community is different and each community has its own separate needs. There is a program out there that's under FEMA that's called CERT, the Community Emergency Response Teams. Most communities, there's over 600,000 volunteers for the CERT program. If your community doesn't have one and is a good idea to have one, then reach out to me and I'll give you everything you need to know to set it up. It's totally free. There's 17 and a half hours, but then what they do of training, and then what they do is the specific needs for your community. My guess is you've got heat, you've got drought, you've got fires, you've got tornadoes, And then there's probably some risk around. Maybe you've got a train that comes through there that might have be carrying toxic chemicals. They teach you what to do with those things that are not your typical disasters. So I started this because I saw a real need for education and what is the best way to get people to listen. I had a for-profit, and during COVID, I had 38 people come through my training and become CKM advisors. They were adults. And I would send out every month something of interest for their community to be better prepared. Nobody was doing anything. I did the video. All they do is forward the video. I ended up with 38, which is not bad considering it was COVID. But at the same time, they weren't taking it to the next step of implementing it. FEMA calls it preparedness procrastination. They're not going to, the kids, they'll listen to. And so the word is getting out. I spent 2 years interviewing people and talking to people about the kits and whether it was a good idea and whether I was competing with the Red Cross. The answer is no. We are adjacent with them and we support them, and we are actually getting support from them.
So I was very much intrigued when you opened the podcast by saying something along the lines of everything in your professional background has led you to this moment. Now, for those watching the video of this, their observation of Connie and I will make clear to them that we are both baby boomers. So we've been in the workforce a long time. And so part of that is the maturity level that both you and I have to see those connections and see how me going to law school actually led to you and I talking about preparedness and sustainability today. But could you maybe sort of look back or summarize really that statement, how everything you've done professionally has led you to this moment in time where you can not only see what I'm going to call a market need, but actually step in and fill that market need with the service offering of Kits for Kids?
Absolutely. I started out in the insurance business. I had my own insurance offices and I went all the way through that. My husband passed away in 2011, and that was a pivotal moment. My first book, When Men Think Will Happen, is just the eighth book. The first one was called Crystalline Moments. And crystalline means sparkly or clear, so moments of clarity. And when my husband passed away, I tried to go back to my old job, which was a co-founder of an online education platform, and I couldn't do it. I was going back, and all of a sudden, I realized the old life I had known was gone. And then I started taking a look at my new life, what that was going to look like. I became a life coach, as a executive coach. I got my certifications, and I started asking myself, what does that FEMA stuff that I did for 7 years have to do with anything that I'm doing today? And then in 2019, the California Association of Realtors, which I work very closely with, sent out an email saying, we want a course on disasters. It went live in January of 2020. Little did we know. And that started me. The coaching that I was a co-founder of, at the time, it was the largest home inspection network in the country. Back when you had to explain to a realtor what a home inspection was. My education is online education platform. I do a lot of training and education. But it all led to me realizing that there was such a need out there. When we see a disaster and we see, like, there's two types of victims. There's the victim that says, oh my God, I've lost everything. I don't know what I'm going to do. And then there's the victim that says, I've lost everything, but I can rebuild. And my goal through the Kits for Kids and through my other training is to show people how they can be that resilient mindset, no matter what the crisis, whether it's a disaster or whether it's a death or whatever it is. In my book, Crystalline Moments, I talk about anytime you have a moment of clarity, and it could be a moment, it could be a year-long event. But when you have that clarity, there is always, no matter how terrible it is, there's always a gift or an opportunity in that. And every disaster is a crystalline moment. There's always a gift. The greatest gift my husband ever gave me, and we celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary 4 days before he passed. And his greatest gift was in his passing, because whatever you want to call it, God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, said, okay, Connie, you can't do what you've been doing. You've got a bigger path to follow. And I started the path of, again, I didn't know what this FEMA stuff had to do with anything. I trained thousands of inspectors, and I did 50 disasters myself. And I now understand And this is true of anybody, not just me, but anybody, your path. And you just mentioned you trained as an attorney. Everything that you've done has led you to this podcast and making a difference. Everything I have done has led me to now, to me being able to say, I can help 30 million people. I can make that difference. And in doing so, I can help the world to maybe survive and continue to grow. God forbid my great grandson, what is the country going to look like? What's the world going to look like when he's 45? So I'm on a mission, a big mission, but try and stop me, anybody.
Let's turn to the importance of preparedness and sustainability in a business. Why is this so critical? I would say in 2025, but maybe I should not limit it to this point in time.
No, no. Okay, so I'm gonna bring up something positive about this. Okay, I say it's a Benjamin Franklin quote: "Do well by doing good." 50% of the population today, us baby boomers, are kind of going on, and 50% are millennials, Gen Zers, and now Gen Alphas. And they insist that they work with organizations. 87% want to work with organizations that have a cause, and it could be any kind of cause, but they want to have some kind of a cause that they relate to. Their biggest concern is, what is the world going to look like? And what can I do to make a difference? So I approach this as a way of, the disasters are getting more intense, they're more expensive, they're more frequent, as we can all tell. Last year, 2024, it was $182.6 billion that NOAA accounted for billion-dollar disasters or greater, not counting the ones that didn't quite make the 1 billion mark. And it's only weather related. That's up $40 billion from the year before. 39 million, or 33% of people in this country, were displaced in some fashion for disasters in 2023. Now we have an insurance problem. You live in Texas, I'm sure your insurance rates have gone up. It doesn't really matter where you are. Insurance rates are going up because of the risk factors that the insurance companies are having to look at. 1 in 4 homes are now starting to be considered too high a risk. So what do we do about it? We come to the local community. We say, look, we're going to help. Your kids are going to help us educate the businesses. You need to know what you need to have. I have a free booklet. I'll send you the link and you can put it in the show notes on what to do for your personal life as well as your business. I think there's 31 continuity questions that you can answer for your business that will help you with creating a continuity plan. 75% of businesses that do not have a plan will be out of business in 2 years. They may be able to open back up after the disaster, but they don't have the plan and the resources in place to keep it going. So those kinds of statistics are why you need to be prepared, why you need to be sustainable. First of all, you'll increase the value of your business. And sustainable means all kinds of things. What can you do if something does happen? What are you going to do? How are you going to pay your staff if you want to stay open? All those kinds of questions have to be answered. But what can you do to mitigate? And what are the benefits of reducing your carbon footprint? So all of those things come into consideration. And I'm going to address the monkey that's in the room right now. The people that don't believe there's no such thing as climate change, it really doesn't matter if we believe that or not. The bottom line is, we are all paying the bill with our tax dollars and with our insurance costs. So anything we can review.
Let me stop you right there. I've wanted to have this conversation and I haven't found anyone to have it with. So you're the winner. I should have told you when we started this podcast, if you open a rabbit hole, I've reserved the right to go down as far as possible. And that's homeowners insurance. After the fires in LA, one of my first thoughts was, oh my God, what is this going to do to fire insurance in Los Angeles? Now, homeowners, I live, as I said, in a rural part of West Texas, and fires are forefront of everyone's mind because of droughts. And I know what the increase in homeowners insurance has been at my ranch. But that's Tom and one ranch in a fairly rural county with a fairly small population. It's not a major urban center with multi-million dollar homes. And but this is not limited to a ranch or large homes or expensive homes. It's every home. And I worry about the Gen Zs or the Gen Alphas who have now $1,000 a month homeowner's bill or $2,000 a month, which they can't amortize over the 30-year life of a mortgage. They have to pay every month because the bank demands it. And how can we begin to address, and I worked in the insurance industry as a lawyer, done reinsurance, so I understand all the way up the chain what the costs are and what the risks are. But we have a systemic economic problem that's going to prevent generations of Americans from becoming homeowners. And I haven't been able to have that conversation with anyone focused on insurance. How do we get that message out?
I think the best way, let me use Paradise, California as a really good example. In 2018, a fire came through and it wiped out the entire city. And all the insurance companies except one left. Now, the insurance commissioner did come in and say, you can't, after that happened, said you can't leave if there's a disaster and you have insurers. So he had a 3-year window that they had to stick around and figure out how to make this work. The good news is, now this is 2018. We're talking 7, 8 years. And they're just now rebuilding, but they're rebuilding with structures where now the insurance companies are coming back. So the way that we build homes today is, I just came from the National Association of Builders, a conference here in Vegas. And I am blown away with the innovation. I spoke last year at the National Association of Realtors Sustainability Summit. The innovation that is out there, that's what's going to save us, Tom. What's going to save us is these tools that they're making available. And there's simple things you could do. I have a picture of a house in Lahaina. Now, this couple, it was a national home on registry. So they remodeled it. They put a steel roof on, not because they were worried about fire, but because they were worried about sea air. The house was built out of redwood, which is already a fire retardant. And they put on a non-wood deck. Now, they didn't do that because they were worried about fire. And they didn't put this 30 feet of rock around their homes because they were worried about fire. They were worried about termites. But this picture shows this home, and it has a big red roof on it, and the devastation and destruction all around it. What you're going to be seeing in Pacific Palisades and Altadena, and you're already seeing this in Lahaina and all these other areas, are these homes that are now being built. I'm looking, because we're putting together an RV park for senior citizens, or not an RV park, but community. And we're looking at ADUs. We looked at one yesterday. The wood is so beautiful, but it's not wood. It's made out of coffee husks and recycled bottles. There's a 3D printer out of Texas that has a 3D printer the home is entirely made out of recycled bottles. And that's what I'm talking about, innovation. And the young people today, like millennials, they don't want a big fancy home. They want a home they're going to be safe in. So you're going to see the wood and the stick homes being replaced. And there's all kinds of things you can do to those homes to make them more sustainable and to be able to withstand a disaster. Like these homes that we looked at, they withstand a wind up to 165 miles an hour. And an earthquake, they'll move with the earthquake. So the sun's not going to hurt them because they're not made out of wood. And they have complete temperature control because of the fabric and the material that they're using in it. So that's how there's no easy answer to this. None. Because first of all, if you know about reinsurance, so most people don't realize that reinsurers insure all around the world. And so any disaster that happens in Africa is going to affect our premiums. And the more the disasters, the more it's going to cost. So there's no easy, and insurance companies, Farmers was the first one to come back to Paradise because of the way they're reconstructing their home and their community. That is what it's going to take, and that is what is going to have to happen throughout the country. And there's other things we can do to cut down on the gas in the air and do our share, simple little things that we can do, like planning trips where you're not going and coming back each time. You're planning a trip out. Little things like that, compost, recycling, those, and we have to find a way of reusing what we're recycling. That's also another big problem, is that the innovation, like I love the fact that they're using recycled bottles to build houses. That's pretty darn clever to me. And it's withstanding. It's doing better than any other kind of material. To answer your question, there is no easy answer here. And it is a huge problem. Let's hope that the millennials and the Gen Zers, they're dictating where we're going to go with this. Us baby boomers are out of the picture.
Hopefully not yet. Quite.
Not yet, but
Okay. Let's turn to Kids for Kids, both the initiative and the mission, and then the spokesperson campaign. Tell us a little bit about those ideas.
I mentioned earlier that the mental health people say the best way to help kids overcome those fears and potential suicide and that, which by the way, suicide is the number one killer of kids a certain age. I don't know exactly what they were, but like teenage years. In looking at how I wanted to present out the Kits for Kids, because I've explained why I'm doing the Kits for Kids, I wanted to find a way to have kids embrace it. And so, by the way, this is a kit. This is what it looks like. It gets Velcroed into the bottom of a kid's everyday backpack. So it goes to school, the playground, activities. It has a tracker and safety items like stop bleed bandages, that kind of stuff. Okay, so in order to get these out to the kids, I needed a way to be able to have the kids want to be a part of it. So I was watching a Sunday morning show, and there was this young girl from Florida that her neighbor had given her 2 beehives. She was like 11 when it happened, and she was 14 on the show. Now she is the youth beehive spokesperson for the Bee Association, the Florida Bee Association. And I already had somebody from Texas, by the way, that was going to be my national spokesperson. And I said, I need kid spokespeople. So the way that it works, and it's all community-based. We have kids submit a 1-minute video about why they want to be the Kit for Kids spokesperson in their community. Then who is ever involved with the business, whoever's involved, the schools, vote on who's going to be the boy and the girl, ages 13 to 17. And now, but what do we have now? We have an army of kids that said they want to be involved, they want to help. And we're putting together an incredible, that includes scholarships and Toastmaster stuff and all kinds of ways that these kids can benefit. And most schools also have a requirement that you have to volunteer X amount of time if you belong like to the Key Club or some of the other clubs. So we're having the kids come on, give us their video, vote on who it's going to be, and now we're going to educate all of them to go out into their community. So here in Vegas, we have 3 communities. We have Las Vegas, North Las Vegas, and Henderson. So there'll be 6 boys and girls that are going to go into their communities, and we'll be working with community leaders to make it happen. Do well by doing good.
Let's turn to that. And I want to start with people literally our age, and then I want to go down to your children. Many people struggle with what their legacy might be, and I've often heard others say that phrase, do well by doing good, and make that the rest of your life's mission. But you're talking about teaching it to children or communicating it to children or sharing it with children and having that be burned into their DNA. Would that be a fair assessment?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what are some of the future initiatives for Connie?
Oh, that's such a good question. My brother was in town a couple weeks ago, and I was telling him everything was happening with the nonprofit, and he goes, "Why are you doing this? You're 76. Why are you doing this?" And I said, "Because it's my legacy. It's if I can save one person's life, then I feel complete." And so for me, people will tell you, they get tired of me talking about it. I mean, yeah, about the Kits for Kids and why I'm doing what I'm doing. I truly believe that if we, and it's proven out with Crystal Lane Moments was written in 2015. It's in its 3rd edition coming out. Everything I said in that book, I have lived, and other people around me have lived. When something bad happens, there's a gift if you find it, and that is how you move forward, and that's how you do well, is it by giving back. And now the half of the generations of this country are demanding it. So for me, my ultimate goal is not to be running a nonprofit. I have other people that have stepped up that are saying they're going to do it. But right now, I'm it. But this year, by the end of this year, which is part of the reason I want to do this podcast, is I'm going to be speaking and I'm going to be writing, getting the message out. And to me, that's the most important thing is if I go down, if I am 110 and I'm still talking about kits for somebody or something, then I will have lived my life the best I could possibly live it. I don't plan on going anywhere anytime soon. So people are going to have to listen to me.
Connie, unfortunately, we are near the end of our time for this episode. But before we leave, I wanted to ask you if any of our listeners wanted to connect with you, find out more about Be Prepared, Be Ready, or buy any of your books, what would be the best place or places for them to go?
You can find me all over social media. Coni, and Coni is spelled Coni, Meyers, Meyers. That's usually the biggest obstacle. BePreparedBeReady.org has everything. You can buy the kits. You can make donation. If you make a donation of $25 and you say you want a kit, then I will be more than happy. If you have a group, just reach out to me on, it's just Coni Meyers at Be Prepared, Be Ready, all one word, and reach out to me and I'll be more than happy to talk about the kits for kids or kits for seniors or kits for pets. At just anything I can do to help people do well by doing good, I want to do.
Well, Connie, I'm not quite sure what I was expecting in this podcast, but you exceeded it by about 1,000%, whatever it was. I wanted to thank you again, and I'm going to say we will continue this conversation.
Thank you, Tom, so much for having me. Please, everybody, go out there and do well by doing good.